Listen closely because the next breath can redraw the borders of your life, not with a miracle, but with something quieter and far more powerful: consistency. We love to blame our past, our circumstances, our supposed ceilings. Yet the truth that changes everything is simpler. We rarely stay long enough with the right effort to witness what is actually possible. Before we dive in, take a second to hit that like button and let us know in the comments where you're listening from. You might be surprised to find someone listening from the same place as you. Introduction. Think of the patterns you've lived before. The bright start, the fading weak, the promise postponed until when I feel ready. The world calls that normal. Your nervous system even rewards it with little bursts of easy comfort. But your life does not transform by accident. It transforms by design. Modern science calls it neuroplasticity: neurons that fire together, wire together. Each day you return to a practice, you stamp a pathway deeper until the action once resisted becomes your new default. Ancient philosophy understood the same law. The Stoics taught that impressions arrive uninvited, yet assent, your choice to persist or to quit, belongs to you. Buddhist training adds, the missing bridge: observe the gust without becoming the wind. Return to the task again and again until attention itself becomes steady. From a spiritual perspective, consistency is coherence, the alignment of thought, feeling, and action into a single frequency. What you stabilize within becomes what reality can entrain around you. Call it intention. Call it prayer with your hands. Each day of faithful practice becomes a tuning fork that quietly instructs your world. More of this. Limits do not vanish in a single blaze. They erode under the tide of steady proof. The brain records evidence. The heart records courage. The body records capacity. And together, they rewrite the story you thought was final. Understand the enemy clearly. The first barrier is the belief that change is impossible. I have always been this way. That is not fate. It is untested habit. The second is fear, dressed up as logic. Not the right time, after I learn more. Fear shrinks when faced daily. The third is the comfort that keeps you small, because comfort offers relief now and regret later. Consistency reverses the bargain: effort now, freedom later. Show up when you don't feel like it, and watch your self-respect rise. Self-respect is motivation's older, steadier sibling. Begin small. One honest action repeated outruns a dozen dramatic beginnings. Learn one skill for 15 focused minutes. Speak one brave sentence in the meeting. Walk a little farther than yesterday. These are not trivialities. They are the physics of becoming. Water wears down stone, not by force, but by return. So do you. Each return is a vote for the person you claim to be. Vote often. If you desire a different horizon, stop negotiating with your limits and start collecting evidence against them. Keep a log. Stack proof. Surround yourself with people who treat disciplined effort as normal. Clear the space where you work so focus is easier than distraction. Breathe when emotion surges and choose response over reaction. And above all, keep the promise you make to yourself today, because the self who meets you tomorrow is built from this hour's faithfulness. This is not about perfection. It is about direction, about turning your life into a vector that points beyond what you once believed. Stay with me. In the pages ahead, we will break mental barriers, confront hidden fears, raise standards, fortify the body, quiet the storms within, master focus, transmute setbacks, and prove through action, science and spirit, that ceilings are ideas, not laws. Consistency is the key that fits them all. Insert it daily, turn, and walk through. Chapter 1. Break mental barriers. Daily. The walls that confine most lives are rarely made of brick and steel. They are woven from thoughts, silent narratives that whisper what is possible and what is not. These mental barriers are the most cunning adversaries because they do not announce themselves. They masquerade as truth. They live in our memories, our childhood conditioning, our past failures, and the subtle judgments of others. They shape our decisions quietly, guiding us to stay small, to aim lower, to settle for less. Every belief you hold about what you are capable of, how far you can go, or what kind of life you deserve is not a fixed reality, but a neural pathway carved by repetition. The mind, as neuroscience shows, is plastic. Its structure rewires according to what it practices. A belief is nothing more than a thought that has been rehearsed long enough to feel permanent. And that means it can be changed. This process does not happen in a single leap. It unfolds gradually through deliberate, consistent action. Each day you challenge a belief that once limited you, you loosen its hold. Each time you take a step beyond what you assumed was possible, you prove to yourself that the story can be rewritten. This is the daily practice of breaking barriers, not through dramatic acts, but through steady pressure applied in small, repeatable ways. The first and most formidable barrier is the belief that change is impossible. I've always been this way, the mind insists, so I will always be this way. But that is not science. It is resignation. Modern psychology shows that our identity is not fixed. It is a fluid construct shaped by our behaviors and reinforced by evidence. When you learn a new skill, however small, you generate proof that you are capable of change. When you show up consistently for yourself, even for 10 minutes, you accumulate data that contradicts the old narrative. And once the mind is presented with new evidence, it cannot unsee it. Another barrier that keeps people locked in mediocrity is fear. Not the loud, obvious kind, but the subtle fear of failure, embarrassment, or rejection. These fears are evolutionary echoes, remnants of a time when social exclusion meant death. Today they manifest as hesitation, the job application left, unsent the idea never shared, the dream perpetually postponed. But fear is not a stop sign. It is a compass pointing to where growth lives. Each time you act, despite fear, the neural pathway of avoidance weakens, and the pathway of courage strengthens. The first act feels unbearable, the second merely uncomfortable. By the 10th, fear has lost its grip. A third invisible wall is the narrative of inadequacy, the self-talk that loops like a broken record. I'm not good enough. I don't have what it takes. These words shape perception, and perception shapes reality. Cognitive behavioral therapy teaches us that our thoughts create our emotions, which drive our actions. If you change the thought, the downstream effect changes too. Begin by replacing each self-limiting statement with one that is slightly more empowering. I can't becomes I will try. I'm not ready becomes I'm learning. These micro-corrections practiced daily shift the internal dialogue from sabotage to support. Past failures also linger as heavy stones in the psyche. The human brain is wired to remember negative events more vividly than positive ones, a survival mechanism known as the negativity bias. Yet the past has no authority over the future unless you grant it. Each new action, each fresh attempt, writes over the old narrative. Eventually, the story of repeated failure is replaced by a story of persistent effort and eventual victory. Then there is the most seductive barrier of all comfort. Comfort lulls you into believing that safety is preferable to expansion. But comfort is a cage with velvet walls. Growth, by definition, requires friction. Muscles strengthen when torn. Minds expand when stretched. Lives evolve when pushed. Small daily steps beyond what feels easy accumulate into seismic transformation over time. What was once terrifying becomes tolerable. What was once impossible becomes routine. This is how athletes build endurance, how artists build mastery, how leaders build courage, not by leaping over walls in a single bound, but by pushing against them one day at a time. Each repetition strengthens the muscle of discipline, and discipline is the force that reshapes identity. At first, effort feels heavy, and resistance feels insurmountable. But the mind, like the body, adapts. Actions that once required willpower become automatic, and the impossible becomes inevitable. Breaking mental barriers is not just about achieving goals. It is about transforming the self-image that underlies every decision. When you consistently prove to yourself that you can grow, the way you see yourself changes. You stop identifying as someone limited by circumstance and begin to identify as someone capable of shaping destiny. And that shift changes everything: the risks you take, the relationships you pursue, the dreams you dare to follow. One breakthrough is not enough. The mind is a master of regression. Without daily reinforcement, it slips back into old patterns. This is why consistency is essential. Each day you push against the barrier, you strengthen the new pattern. Each day you show up, you carve a deeper groove of possibility. Over time, the wall is not just broken, it disappears entirely. The reward is profound. You speak in front of others without trembling. You finish the project you once doubted. You rebuild your health after years of neglect. And in that moment, you realize that the limits you once believed were real were nothing more than illusions, mirages dissipated by the steady light of action. Life is not about avoiding barriers. It is about breaking them, one deliberate day at a time. Each barrier you dismantle expands your world, multiplies your choices, and deepens your potential. And it all begins with one decision to act again, today. Stop. Chapter 2. Confront hidden fears and act boldly. Fear is the most subtle architect of a small life. It doesn't always roar. More often, it whispers. It disguises itself as caution, as prudence, as "I'm just waiting for the right time." It persuades us to shrink our dreams until they no longer challenge us. It convinces us to lower our goals so we won't risk disappointment. And it wraps itself in the comforting language of logic. "I'm not ready yet, I'll try when I know more." Now's not the right moment. But beneath every one of these phrases, fear is the real puppeteer. The paradox is, this fear is not inherently the enemy. It is an ancient survival mechanism, the alarm system of the limbic brain, designed to protect us from mortal danger. Thousands of years ago, it kept our ancestors alive by signaling threats, predators, famine, storms. Today, the same circuitry is triggered by far less lethal stimuli: a blank page, a first date, a business idea, a room full of strangers. The body's fight-or-flight response does not distinguish between a tiger and a presentation. Your palms sweat, your heart races, your mind imagines catastrophe, and you retreat. But the truth is that fear's signal, while ancient, is now often miscalibrated. What once meant death now simply means discomfort. And discomfort is not a sign to run, it's a sign you are on the edge of growth. To live boldly, you must transform your relationship with fear. Waiting for fear to disappear is a trap. It never will. Fear recedes only after action, not before it. Neuroscientists call this process extinction. Repeated exposure to a feared situation rewires the amygdala's threat response, teaching the brain that the danger is not real. Every time you step toward what scares you, the signal grows quieter. The first leap feels terrifying. The 10th is tolerable, and eventually, what once paralyzed you becomes almost irrelevant. The first step in this transformation is awareness. Many people never stop to name what they're actually afraid of. They just feel the resistance and obey it. But fear loses much of its power when dragged into the light. Ask yourself, what am I truly afraid of here? Is it rejection? Embarrassment? Wasting time? Being exposed as inadequate? Once named fear becomes a concrete obstacle, not a shadowy fog. You can plan around a known enemy. You can't fight what you refuse to see. Once you name the fear, the second step is confrontation. Deliberate, repeated, small-scale acts of courage. This is not about leaping out of an airplane on day one. It's about choosing daily micro-actions that stretch your threshold. If you fear speaking, start by voicing one comment in a meeting. If you fear rejection, ask for a favor you're likely to be denied. If you fear failure, deliberately attempt something you know you might get wrong. Each small act becomes neurological proof that you can survive the thing you fear. And once survival is proven, fear's grip loosens. There is a spiritual dimension to this process too. Many ancient traditions viewed fear not as a demon to be slain, but as a gatekeeper to transformation. In the Bhagavad Gita, Arjuna's trembling before battle is not weakness, it is the prelude to awakening. In Stoic philosophy, courage is not the absence of fear, but the mastery of it, the decision to act according to virtue rather than emotion. And in modern psychology, courage is defined as fear-walking. The feeling does not vanish. You simply move forward anyway. Each act of courage builds identity. The first time you confront fear, you may still see yourself as timid. The 10th time you begin to view yourself as someone who is capable of bravery. And identity more than motivation or willpower is what sustains long-term change. Once you see yourself as courageous, acting courageously becomes your default state. Bold action also has a ripple effect. It not only liberates you, it inspires those around you. Courage is contagious because it breaks the social hypnosis of fear. When others see you speak your truth, launch your idea, or leap, despite trembling, they begin to question the stories limiting their own lives. In this way, your private victories become public permission slips. But fear is cunning, and it evolves. Conquer one and another will emerge. That is not regression, it is growth. Each new layer of fear is a sign that you are stepping into a larger arena. The goal is not to eliminate fear forever, but to develop the resilience to meet it at every level. And resilience is forged only through consistent exposure. The cost of avoiding fear is not just missed opportunities, it is regret. Fear lasts for a moment. Regret lasts for a lifetime. It arrives decades later, whispering questions that cannot be answered. What if I had tried? What might I have become? The pain of those unasked questions is far heavier than the temporary discomfort of bold action. Every person, even the most accomplished, feels fear. The difference between those who stagnate and those who transcend is not the presence of fear, but their response to it. Some obey it. Others dance with it. Some wait for it to vanish. Others move while it walks beside them. The size of your life will always mirror the size of the fears you are willing to confront. So start now. Choose one fear, however small, and defy it with action today. Tomorrow, choose another. Each act is a thread, and woven together over weeks and months, they form an unbreakable fabric of courage. Eventually, fear ceases to be a wall. It becomes a doorway, one that opens into a life larger, richer, and more extraordinary than the one you left behind. Chapter 3. Destroy limiting beliefs and rebuild a stronger mindset. If fear is the gatekeeper that guards the boundaries of your life, limiting beliefs are the walls that define them. They are the invisible chains that shape your potential long before you ever test it. They are not born from reality, but from repetition words spoken over you, failures that branded you, and conclusions you accepted without question. Most people do not live limited lives because they are limited. They live limited lives because they believe they are. A belief is not a fact. It is a thought that has been repeated so many times by you, by others, by culture, that it has hardened into a worldview. It acts like a filter on a lens. Once in place, everything you see is distorted by it. A person who believes I am not worthy will interpret opportunities as not for me. A person who believes I'm not smart enough will sabotage chances to grow. These beliefs sit quietly in the background, dictating your decisions, shaping your habits, and building a reality that mirrors their limitations. The first step in breaking them is awareness. Most people never question their deepest beliefs because they confuse them with truth. They assume the voice that says, "I can't," is reality speaking. But if you trace that voice back far enough, you often find its source a teacher who criticized you, a parent who doubted you, a failure that humiliated you. These experiences left impressions on the subconscious, which, like a faithful servant, has been replaying them ever since. Once you see that a belief is learned, you realize it can also be unlearned. The second step is interrogation. Do not accept every thought that crosses your mind as true. Challenge it as you would a biased witness in court. Ask, who told me this? When did I decide it was true? What evidence do I actually have? More often than not, you will find that your beliefs are built on assumptions, half-truths, or outdated conclusions that no longer serve who you are today. Neuroscience confirms that questioning a belief disrupts the neural patterns that sustain it. It is the cognitive equivalent of loosening the screws on a cage. Once the old belief is weakened, you must replace it with a new one. The mind does not tolerate a vacuum. If you simply reject a belief without installing another, the old one will creep back in. Rebuilding your mindset requires consciously choosing thoughts that empower rather than imprison you. For example, "I always fail" becomes "I am learning and improving." "I don't deserve success" becomes "I am worthy of growth, love, and opportunity." At first, these new beliefs may feel false, like clothes that don't quite fit. But remember, the old beliefs felt true only because you repeated them so often. With repetition and reinforcement, the new ones will feel just as natural. Repetition is not optional. It is the mechanism of transformation. The brain strengthens whatever neural circuits it uses most frequently. This is why affirmations, visualization, and daily reminders are more than motivational cliches. They are tools for rewiring the subconscious. Speak your new beliefs aloud. Write them down. Review them each morning and night. Pair them with actions that provide evidence for their truth. Over time, the brain accepts them not as wishes, but as reality. Action is the most powerful destroyer of limiting beliefs because it creates indisputable evidence. If you believe you can't speak in public, start with one conversation, then a small group, then a larger stage. Each successful attempt becomes data that contradicts the old narrative. If you believe you're not disciplined, commit to a small habit, 5 minutes of reading, a short workout, and do it daily. Every time you follow through, you weaken the old belief and strengthen the new one. Identity follows evidence. The environment also matters deeply. The beliefs you carry are influenced by the beliefs around you. Spend time with people who doubt themselves, and they will reinforce your doubts. Spend time with people who challenge themselves, and they will challenge you. The same applies to the information you consume. Fill your mind with stories of resilience, reinvention, and possibility. Study the lives of those who overcame impossible odds. The subconscious does not distinguish between what it experiences directly and what it observes. Exposure to evidence of transformation trains it to believe transformation is possible for you too. Spiritual traditions teach a similar lesson. In many mystical schools, the mind is described as a garden. If you do not plant deliberately, weeds of doubt and limitation will grow by default. Each empowering belief is a seed. Each repetition is water. Each courageous action is sunlight. Over time, the garden flourishes, and the weeds lose their strength. The process is slow but unstoppable, and the harvest is freedom. Understand that limiting beliefs do not vanish overnight. They are deeply ingrained, often intertwined with your identity. Sometimes, even after months of progress, the old voice will return, whispering, "You haven't changed. This is who you are." Do not be discouraged. Like a muscle, belief must be trained daily. Consistency wears down resistance. Just as water can carve a canyon through stone, small persistent actions will eventually reshape the deepest parts of your mind. It is also important to accept that limiting beliefs never disappear entirely. They can resurface if neglected. This is why the work must be ongoing. Destroying limiting beliefs is not a one-time event. It is a daily practice. Each morning, ask yourself, what belief will I challenge today? Each night ask, what action did I take to prove myself stronger than that belief? These questions keep your mind vigilant and evolving. Imagine a life free from the weight of those false narratives. Imagine waking up without the heavy voice that says, "You're not enough," stepping into opportunities you once avoided, building relationships without fear, and pursuing dreams without apology. This is not fantasy. It is the inevitable outcome of daily belief reconstruction. The most extraordinary people you know are not those who never doubted themselves. They are those who refused to let those doubts decide their destiny. The mind is the soil from which every result in your life grows. If the soil is poisoned with limitation, nothing lasting can flourish. But if you tend to it, questioning, replacing, reinforcing it, becomes fertile ground for every possibility. Your job is not to wait for belief to change on its own. Your job is to become the deliberate architect of your mental landscape. And when you do, you will discover that the limits you once accepted as just the way I am were never real at all. They were only stories. And stories once rewritten can change everything. Chapter 4. Challenge excuses daily and choose growth over comfort. Excuses are the most seductive lies we tell ourselves, not because they sound outrageous, but because they sound reasonable. I'm too tired. I'll start when I have more time. I'm not ready yet. On the surface, these words appear harmless, even logical. But beneath them lies a dangerous truth. Every excuse you accept is a permission slip to stay the same. Every excuse you tolerate is a brick in the invisible prison that keeps you from your potential. The human mind is a master negotiator. It seeks the path of least resistance, a relic of our evolutionary wiring. The brain is designed to conserve energy, avoid pain, and seek safety instincts that once ensured survival, but now conspire against growth. Change, by definition, is uncomfortable. It demands energy, effort, and uncertainty, all things the primal mind wants to avoid. So it whispers justifications clever enough to sound true, soothing enough to believe. And with each one, the comfort zone grows thicker, harder to escape. But comfort is a false friend. It promises relief, but delivers regret. The momentary ease you feel when you postpone the workout, delay the project, or avoid the conversation quickly fades, replaced by the quiet ache of stagnation. Growth, on the other hand, is inconvenient in the moment, but liberating in the long run. It demands effort now, but it rewards you with pride, capability, and freedom later. Life is always presenting you with this choice, the relief of excuses or the rewards of growth. And every day that choice shapes who you become. One of the most common excuses is the illusion of time. I don't have time to exercise. I don't have time to build a business. I don't have time to learn. But time is not something you have. It is something you make. Everyone is given the same 24 hours. The difference between those who change their lives and those who do not is not the amount of time, but how they prioritize it. People find hours for what they truly value. When you say, I don't have time, what you really mean is, it's not a priority. And the moment you accept that, you reclaim your power to change it. Another seductive excuse is the wait for motivation. We imagine that great actions are preceded by great feelings, that we must feel ready before we begin. But neuroscience tells a different story. Action precedes motivation. Dopamine, the brain's drive chemical, is not released before we act. It is released because we act. The first step, however small, creates momentum. Momentum generates motivation. Motivation fuels more action, and the cycle repeats. If you wait for motivation before moving, you'll wait forever. But if you act first, even without desire, the fire will follow. Fear also hides inside excuses. It's not the right time often means, I'm scared to fail. I need to learn more first often means, I'm afraid I'm not enough. Excuses soften the sting of fear by dressing it in logic. But logic is not truth. The truth is that fear never fully disappears, and waiting for the perfect moment is simply a way of never beginning. Every great achievement was born under imperfect conditions. The business was started before the founder felt ready. The speech was given before the speaker felt confident. The leap was made before the safety net appeared. Progress does not require perfection, only a willingness to begin. Environment plays a crucial role in the excuses we tolerate. Spend time with people who constantly justify their inaction, and you'll do the same. But surround yourself with those who demand more of themselves, who act when it's hard, who follow through without fanfare, who hold themselves accountable, and their standard becomes yours. This is the law of social gravity. You rise or fall to the level of the company you keep. Choose your circle wisely. Challenging excuses requires brutal honesty, the kind of honesty that strips away illusions and forces you to confront reality. Each night ask yourself, did I truly do my best today, or did I hide behind justifications? Did I act on my goals, or did I rationalize my inaction? Did I choose growth, or did I choose comfort? The answers may sting, but that sting is the beginning of change. Clarity creates responsibility, and responsibility is power. Growth will always feel uncomfortable. It will ask you to push when you're tired, to show up when you don't feel like it, to commit when the outcome is uncertain. But it is precisely this discomfort that sculpts resilience and builds strength. Comfort soothes you today, but steals from your future. Growth challenges you today, but pays dividends for decades. The question is not whether discomfort will visit you, it will. The question is whether you will choose it on your terms, or let life impose it on you later as regret. Understand this: excuses compound, just like actions do. One excuse tolerated today becomes 10 tomorrow. But one excuse denied today becomes 10 victories in the future. The difference between the life you have and the life you want is often nothing more than the number of excuses you are willing to challenge. There is profound spiritual wisdom in this principle too. In nearly every sacred tradition, discipline is described as the path to liberation. The Stoics saw self-mastery as the only true freedom. The Bhagavad Gita teaches that those who act without attachment to comfort rise above the limitations of the self. And Zen practice speaks of burning through resistance, not avoiding it, but entering it fully until it no longer holds sway. When you choose growth over comfort, you align yourself with this universal law. Evolution is not a gift, but a discipline. Every day you will hear the voice of excuses, soft, persuasive, familiar. Every day you will have the chance to answer it with action. Each time you do, you reclaim a piece of your power. Each time you reject the easy path, you carve a deeper identity of strength. And over time, those small daily choices will compound into a character that no longer needs to be pushed because pushing forward has become who you are. Excuses are the difference between potential and reality, between dreams and destiny. Challenge them relentlessly. Question them ruthlessly. Replace them with movement, however small. Choose growth, even when it's inconvenient, even when it's uncertain, even when it's exhausting. Because growth will give you what comfort never can, a life of strength, purpose, and pride, a life that expands with every decision you make to rise. Chapter 5. Push physical limits. Daily and expand energy for life. Your body is not just a vessel that carries you through life. It is the foundation upon which every thought, decision, and achievement is built. It is the vehicle through which you express your will, manifest your purpose, and experience the fullness of existence. And yet many people treat the body as an afterthought, a secondary concern to be addressed when there's time. They underestimate a profound truth. Your physical vitality sets the ceiling for your mental, emotional, and spiritual potential. When the body is weak, energy dwindles, focus scatters, and ambition falters. But when the body is challenged, strengthened, and expanded, daily life itself becomes larger. Human physiology is designed for adaptation. It is an elegant system that responds precisely to the demands placed upon it. Demand nothing of it, and it will give you nothing. Challenge it, and it will grow stronger than you imagined. This principle, known as hormesis in biology, explains how the body evolves under stress. Muscles tear and rebuild thicker. Lungs expand to meet new demands. Mitochondria, the tiny power plants within your cells, multiply in response to exertion, generating more energy. The same body that once fatigued after a short walk can, through consistent challenge, run marathons, climb mountains, and endure storms. This is why pushing physical limits daily is not merely about fitness. It is about life force. Energy is not a finite resource handed to you at birth. It is a dynamic current that you generate through use. The paradox of vitality is simple. The more energy you expend, the more you create. Movement increases circulation, which fuels oxygen delivery, which sharpens cognition, which enhances mood. It's a cascade, a virtuous loop that begins with one deliberate act, challenging your physical self. Pushing limits does not mean punishing the body or courting injury. It means meeting your current edge, whatever that is, and stepping just beyond it. If you can walk 1 mile, walk 2. If you can do 10 push-ups, do 12. If you can hold a plank for 30 seconds, aim for 40. These micro-challenges repeated daily trigger exponential growth over time. The compound effect applies to the body, just as it does to wealth or knowledge. Tiny, consistent efforts create transformations that seem miraculous in hindsight. The benefits of this practice extend far beyond muscle or endurance. Physical challenge is one of the most powerful tools for training the mind. When your body wants to stop but you choose to continue, you prove to yourself that you can transcend discomfort. Each rep past your comfort zone builds mental toughness, the grit that carries you through every difficult conversation, setback, or moment of doubt. This is why elite performers, athletes, soldiers, entrepreneurs all rely on physical discipline as the backbone of their mindset. The resilience forged in sweat and strain transfers seamlessly into every arena of life. Moreover, physical strength is deeply connected to emotional well-being. Exercise releases endorphins and elevates neurotransmitters like serotonin and dopamine, which regulate mood and motivation. It reduces cortisol, the stress hormone that corrodes clarity and creativity. A strong body is not merely a shell, it is a biochemical engine tuned for confidence, joy, and presence. And when your internal state shifts, so does the way you engage with the world. Problems seem smaller. Possibilities seem closer. Your sense of agency expands. There is also a profound spiritual dimension to physical mastery. Many ancient traditions viewed the body as sacred, a temple for the soul. To neglect it was not only impractical, but irreverent. Movement was seen as meditation breath, as prayer discipline, as devotion. When you train your body, you are not just sculpting flesh. You are aligning with a universal principle that life seeks to expand through use. The act of pushing your physical limits becomes a ritual of reverence, a daily offering that says, I honor the vessel that carries me. I will not waste its potential. Common excuses often sabotage this sacred relationship. I don't have time. I'm too tired. I'm not athletic. But these are illusions and dangerous ones. The truth is that even 15 to 20 minutes of focused physical effort can transform your physiology. The body does not demand hours. It demands consistency. Small daily doses of intensity signal it to adapt. And once adaptation begins, momentum takes over. Energy increases, making action easier. Confidence grows, making effort more natural. Soon, movement is not a chore, it is a craving. Of course, challenge must be balanced with recovery. Growth occurs not during exertion, but during rest, when the body repairs and rebuilds. Nutrition and sleep are not luxuries. They are non-negotiable elements of this equation. Food is more than fuel. It is information that tells your body how to perform. Sleep is more than rest. It is the laboratory where strength, memory, and resilience are synthesized. Neglect them, and even the hardest training will backfire. Honor them, and every effort will yield exponential returns. The process of physical transformation is humbling. There will be days when progress feels invisible, when fatigue outweighs motivation, when results seem distant. But beneath the surface, change is happening. Muscles strengthening, endurance, increasing systems, optimizing. Over weeks and months, these invisible shifts erupt into visible transformation. Your posture changes, your energy multiplies, your presence deepens. People notice not just a stronger body, but a stronger being. Neglecting the body, on the other hand, shrinks life. Energy dwindles, resilience fades, opportunities slip by, not because they were out of reach, but because you lacked the vitality to grasp them. In this way, physical stagnation becomes existential stagnation. But the reverse is equally true. Strengthening the body expands the soul's reach. With each new level of physical capacity, you unlock new dimensions of possibility in work, in love, in creativity, in purpose. Each day you have a choice to accept the limits of your current capacity, or to push a little further. Settling keeps you small. Stretching makes you expansive. And the beauty of this principle is that it never stops working. No matter your age, background, or starting point, the body remains astonishingly responsive to demand. It is waiting for your signal, waiting for you to say through action, "I am not done growing." Push even a little. Breathe deeper. Move farther. Lift heavier. Endure longer. In doing so, you do far more than strengthen muscle. You strengthen will. You do far more than expand stamina. You expand life itself. Your physical potential is infinite, and every step beyond your current edge brings you closer to that infinite field. Chapter 6. Strengthen emotional control and rise above inner chaos. The greatest battles you will ever fight are not waged in the outside world. They happen silently within you. A careless comment, an unexpected setback, a wave of anxiety from nowhere. These are the moments that shape the quality of your life far more than external events ever could. The truth is simple, yet profound mastery of your emotions is mastery of your destiny. Until you learn to govern what happens inside, you will always be controlled by what happens outside. Emotions are not enemies. They are messengers, powerful signals that something within you needs attention. Anger might reveal a boundary crossed. Sadness could signal a loss that requires integration. Fear often points to areas where growth is possible. But when left unexamined, these messengers become tyrants, pulling you in every direction and sabotaging your best intentions. Emotional reactivity turns small obstacles into crises, turns misunderstandings into broken relationships, and transforms potential into paralysis. Modern neuroscience reveals why this happens. The limbic system, particularly the amygdala, is designed for survival, not nuance. It reacts quickly and intensely, often before the rational prefrontal cortex has a chance to weigh in. This amygdala hijack explains why we lash out, shut down, or spiral into panic before we even understand what's happening. But the same science also offers hope. The brain is plastic. Emotional regulation is not a fixed trait. It's a skill that can be trained. The first step is awareness. Most people are so identified with their emotions that they cannot separate who they are from what they feel. "I am angry" is very different from "I am experiencing anger." The former fuses identity with the emotion, while the latter creates distance, a space in which choice becomes possible. Practicing mindfulness strengthens this space. By observing your feelings without judgment, naming them, describing their physical sensations, watching them rise and fall, you activate the prefrontal cortex and weaken the amygdala's grip. Over time, this space grows larger, and reaction transforms into response. The second step is regulation. Once awareness is established, you can begin to actively shape your emotional state. One of the simplest, yet most powerful tools is the breath. Slow, deliberate breathing activates the parasympathetic nervous system, the body's built-in calm switch, reducing stress hormones and restoring equilibrium. Techniques like the 4-7-8 breath or box breathing can lower anxiety in minutes. Another powerful tool is reappraisal, the conscious reframing of how you interpret an event. Cognitive behavioral research shows that emotions are not caused directly by events, but by the meaning we assign to them. For example, if someone cuts you off in traffic, you might interpret it as a personal insult and feel rage, or you might see it as evidence they're rushing to an emergency and feel compassion. The event is the same, the story is different, and so is the emotional outcome. By training yourself to question and reframe your initial interpretations, you reclaim control over your inner state. Emotional control also requires a shift in perspective on discomfort. Most people treat unpleasant emotions as threats, something to be avoided, numbed, or suppressed. But discomfort is not danger. In fact, it is often the birthplace of wisdom. Sitting with sadness teaches resilience. Facing fear builds courage. Allowing vulnerability deepens connection. Suppression, on the other hand, only magnifies what it seeks to hide. Emotions buried alive do not die. They resurface as chronic stress, destructive habits, or unexplained anxiety. One of the most transformative practices for building emotional strength is deliberate exposure. Just as muscles grow by lifting heavier weights, your emotional resilience grows by voluntarily entering challenging emotional states and learning to stay grounded within them. This might mean having the difficult conversation you've been avoiding, embracing constructive criticism without defensiveness, or deliberately seeking experiences that stretch your comfort zone. Each time you do, you expand your emotional capacity. There's profound spiritual wisdom here too. Nearly every philosophical tradition teaches that mastery over the self begins with mastery over emotion. The Stoics called it apatheia, not apathy, but the ability to remain undisturbed by external chaos. In Buddhism, equanimity, upekkha, is considered one of the highest virtues, the ability to hold both joy and sorrow with equal openness. In the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna teaches Arjuna that the wise remain steady in pleasure and pain, gain and loss, victory and defeat. This isn't emotional numbness, it's emotional sovereignty, the ability to feel deeply without being ruled by what you feel. Strengthening emotional control also involves aligning your responses with your values rather than your moods. Anyone can act with kindness when they feel kind, or with patience when they feel calm. But true mastery is choosing those responses when anger flares or anxiety spikes. This requires conscious intention. Before reacting, pause and ask, what version of myself do I want to embody right now? This brief moment of reflection is often enough to transform a reflexive reaction into a deliberate choice. Remember, too, that emotional mastery is not about suppression or pretending to be unaffected. It's about integration, allowing your emotions to exist without letting them dictate your life. Think of a skilled rider on a powerful horse. The horse's strength is not denied. It is directed. Your emotions are the same. They are potent energy. Unchecked, they will drag you in circles. Harnessed, they become a driving force toward purpose. Emotional chaos is inevitable, but it is not undefeatable. With practice, what once triggered you will barely register. What once consumed your peace will become an invitation to grow. Life will not stop testing your emotional strength. Setbacks, betrayals, disappointments will come. But each is an opportunity to demonstrate sovereignty, and sovereignty, once cultivated, becomes unshakable. The storms inside you are not meant to break you, they are meant to forge you. Each wave you learn to surf instead of drown beneath builds a deeper calm. Each fire you learn to stand in without burning teaches you unshakable presence. And eventually, you discover a truth that changes everything. Peace is not the absence of storms. It is the ability to remain still in their midst. Chapter 7. Train unstoppable focus and eliminate distractions. We live in an age of distraction, a world engineered to fracture your attention into 1,000 tiny pieces. Notifications pull at your pocket. Feeds clamor for your dopamine. Headlines compete for outrage, algorithms for addiction. The ability to concentrate deeply, once a natural human skill, has become a rare and powerful superpower. Yet without it, your potential remains scattered. Every goal, every dream, every breakthrough requires one thing above all: the sustained focus of your mind. Focus is not simply a matter of willpower, it's a muscle. And like any muscle, it weakens when neglected and strengthens when trained. The tragedy is that most people never train it. They live in a constant state of partial attention, half focused on a task, while scrolling through messages, switching between tabs every few minutes, multitasking under the illusion of productivity. But multitasking is a myth. Neuroscience has shown that the brain cannot truly focus on more than one cognitively demanding task at a time. What we call multitasking is actually rapid task switching, a process that drains mental energy, reduces creativity, and increases errors. The first step to regaining control is to understand that attention is your most valuable currency, and everything in the modern world is competing to spend it. The economy you live in is not built on products or services. It's built on attention extraction. Tech platforms, entertainment companies, even news outlets are not selling you content. They are selling your focus to advertisers. If you don't consciously decide where your attention goes, someone else will decide for you. Training focus begins with clarity. You cannot concentrate deeply on a task that is vague. Define precisely what matters most. What is the single most impactful thing you could do today to move your mission forward? Write it down. Make it measurable. Once you identify this one thing, ruthlessly prioritize it. Productivity is not about doing more. It's about doing what matters without distraction. The next step is to design your environment to serve your attention rather than sabotage it. Willpower is finite, but structure is powerful. Remove notifications from your phone. Block distracting websites during deep work hours. Create a dedicated workspace free from clutter and unrelated stimuli. Each small change reduces cognitive friction and strengthens your ability to enter and stay in flow. Flow, that deeply focused state where time disappears and creativity surges, is not reserved for elite performers. It is a biological state accessible to anyone who sets the conditions for it. Research shows that flow requires 3 elements: a clearly defined task, immediate feedback, and a level of difficulty just beyond your comfort zone. If a task is too easy, your mind wanders. Too hard, and it gives up. But at the edge of challenge, the prefrontal cortex quiets, distraction fades, and full immersion begins. Ritual also plays a crucial role in training focus. Begin each deep work session the same way, perhaps with a brief breathing exercise, a cup of tea, or a specific playlist. These rituals act as psychological cues that signal the brain, now we focus. Over time, this conditioning makes it easier to slip into concentration with less resistance. Similarly, schedule your most cognitively demanding work during your peak energy hours, often within the first 3-4 hours after waking. Protect this time fiercely. Treat it as sacred. Another powerful tool is the Pomodoro technique, working in focused sprints, e.g., 50 minutes, followed by short breaks, 10 minutes. These intervals harness the brain's natural rhythms, preventing mental fatigue while maximizing concentration. But during those sprints, eliminate all distractions: phone on airplane mode, browser tabs closed, notifications silenced. One break in focus can cost up to 20 minutes of cognitive momentum, a phenomenon known as attention residue. Focus is not just about external discipline, it's about internal mastery. Most distractions do not come from the outside world. They arise from within. Boredom, anxiety, fear of failure. These inner states nudge you toward escape. Instead of checking your phone, check your feelings. Ask, what discomfort am I trying to avoid right now? Naming the emotion reduces its power. Then choose to stay with the discomfort. This act alone trains one of the most critical components of focus attention endurance, the ability to remain present even when the mind craves relief. There is deep spiritual wisdom here too. In nearly every mystical tradition, the ability to concentrate is considered a foundational skill on the path to mastery. Yogic teachings speak of ekagrata, single-pointed focus, as the key to unlocking deeper states of consciousness. Zen practice is built on the art of attention, the discipline of returning to the breath, again and again. Even the Stoics saw attention as the foundation of virtue. "You become what you give your attention to," wrote Epictetus. "If you yourself do not choose what thoughts and images you expose yourself to, someone else will." Eliminating distraction is not about renouncing technology or living in silence. It's about reclaiming sovereignty over your awareness. It's about choosing what deserves your attention and refusing to scatter it on what doesn't. It's about building a mind so disciplined that it can hold a single thought in place for as long as required to bring it into reality. And the rewards of focus are immense. Deep work produces exponential results. What takes hours in a distracted state can be accomplished in minutes when fully immersed. Focus enhances creativity, sharpens intuition, and accelerates skill mastery. Most importantly, it builds trust in yourself. Each time you follow through on what you intended to do, you reinforce the belief, "I am someone who does what I say I will do." And that belief becomes the foundation of unstoppable momentum. The world will not stop trying to steal your attention. But you are not powerless. You can train your focus like a blade, sharp, steady, and precise. And once mastered, it becomes the ultimate competitive advantage. Because in a society where most people are drifting, distracted, and reactive, the person who can direct their mind with intention will build the impossible. So choose focus. Practice it daily. Guard it fiercely. Because where your attention goes, your future grows, and a focused mind has no limits. Chapter 8. Overcome setbacks and turn obstacles into stepping stones. There is a sacred truth woven into the fabric of every great life. Setbacks are not detours from the path. They are the path. Every dream realized, every invention born, every empire built was forged not in the absence of obstacles, but in the crucible of them. Yet most people misinterpret setbacks. They see them as signs that they are failing, as proof they are unworthy, as evidence that the universe is against them. In reality, setbacks are neither punishment nor proof, they are invitations. Invitations to evolve, to deepen, to become more than who you were yesterday. We are conditioned to desire straight lines, to believe that progress should be linear, that success should be smooth. But nature teaches a different lesson. A seed must crack before it can sprout. A caterpillar must dissolve before it can fly. Even the stars themselves are born from the violent collapse of cosmic clouds. Growth is not gentle, it is forged in friction. And so are you. The first shift you must make is to redefine what a setback means. It is not a wall blocking your way. It is a mirror showing you the skills you have yet to develop, the patience you must still learn, the resilience that needs strengthening. When viewed this way, a setback becomes data feedback from the universe. It is not telling you to stop. It is telling you how to continue more intelligently. Science supports this. The field of neuroplasticity. The brain's ability to rewire itself reveals that growth happens most powerfully in response to challenge. When you attempt something difficult and fail, your brain releases neurochemicals that signal, "We must adapt." New neural pathways form. New strategies emerge. Each time you rise after a fall, your mind and character literally evolve. This is why people who avoid struggle remain stagnant. They deny their biology the stimulus it needs to expand. Spiritually, setbacks are catalysts for awakening. In many traditions, obstacles are not random misfortunes, but divine instruments of growth. In Buddhism, they are karmic teachers, exposing the attachments and illusions you must transcend. In Stoicism, they are fuel for virtue opportunities, to practice patience, courage, and discipline. Even in physics, resistance is what gives form to energy. Without it, nothing would manifest. In the same way, obstacles give structure to your journey. When setbacks arise, and they will, your greatest power is perspective. Instead of asking, "Why is this happening to me?" ask, "What is this trying to teach me?" That single question transforms frustration into curiosity, defeat into development. It shifts your identity from victim to student, and the student always grows. Next practice, emotional mastery in the face of failure. It's natural to feel disappointment or anger when things don't go as planned, but emotions are meant to inform, not imprison. Pause. Breathe. Allow yourself to feel, but do not let that feeling dictate your next action. Neuroscience shows that a 90-second mindful pause is often enough for intense emotions to pass through the nervous system. After that, reason can return, and with it, the ability to respond rather than react. Another key is to separate the event from your identity. A failed business does not mean you are a failure. A broken relationship does not mean you are unlovable. A rejected idea does not mean you are incapable. These events are moments, not definitions. Your identity is not determined by what happens to you, but by how you respond to what happens. When you rise after falling, you reclaim authorship of your story. Adaptation is the art of turning setbacks into stepping stones. When a plan collapses, don't abandon the mission, adjust the method. Flexibility is a form of strength. The oak that resists the wind may snap, but the bamboo that bends will survive the storm. Ask yourself, how can I approach this differently? What resource, skill, or perspective have I not yet considered? The most resilient people are not those who never fail, but those who constantly iterate, learning, refining, evolving. And remember, patience is your ally. Setbacks often delay results, but delay is not denial. The greatest achievements, from scientific breakthroughs to personal transformations, require time. The germination period of a dream is invisible, but it is essential. Do not dig up the seed because the sprout has not appeared. Trust the process. Keep watering. Keep tending. Growth is happening beneath the surface even if you cannot yet see it. Gratitude is another tool to alchemize obstacles. It may sound paradoxical, but gratitude for your challenges shifts your vibrational state from resistance to acceptance, and acceptance opens doors that resistance keeps closed. When you say, "Thank you for this lesson," you align with the deeper intelligence of life. You recognize that the universe is not conspiring against you, but collaborating with you, shaping you into someone worthy of the destiny you seek. Community, too, is vital. Humans are not meant to endure setbacks alone. Surround yourself with those who remind you of your strength when you doubt it, who reflect your potential when you cannot see it. Support multiplies resilience, and be that source of support for others, because in lifting them through their setbacks, you reinforce your own capacity to rise. Finally, cultivate humility. Setbacks humble the ego, and that is their greatest gift. They remind you that you don't know everything, that there is still more to learn, more to become. Humility keeps you teachable. It keeps you open to wisdom, innovation, and growth. Without it, setbacks become sources of bitterness. With it, they become portals to transformation. History's most luminous examples, Edison failing thousands of times before inventing the light bulb, Mandela enduring decades of imprisonment before changing a nation, countless entrepreneurs going bankrupt before building empires, all share one trait: they did not interpret setbacks as signs to stop. They saw them as stepping stones, each one carrying them closer to mastery. So when obstacles appear, and they will, do not curse them. Climb them. Use them. Turn them into the very material from which you build your strength. Because in the end, the measure of your life will not be how often you avoided setbacks, but how relentlessly you rose after them. Each fall is a lesson. Each obstacle is a teacher. Each setback is a stepping stone. And if you step on enough of them, they will lead you somewhere extraordinary. Chapter 9. Stretch personal standards and demand more from yourself. There is a silent contract that governs the quality of every human life, not the one written by governments or societies, but the one you write with yourself. It is defined by the standards you choose to accept. They are the invisible boundaries that decide how hard you work, how deeply you love, how fiercely you pursue your goals, and how much of your potential you allow to unfold. Most people never consciously write this contract. They drift through life on autopilot, living by standards set by comfort, convenience, and the expectations of others. But extraordinary lives are never built on ordinary standards. Your standards are the internal thermostat of your destiny. Set them low, and you will forever operate in mediocrity. Set them high, and your life will rise to meet them. It's not talent, luck, or intelligence that separates the exceptional from the average. It's the level of demand they place on themselves when no one else is watching. Philosophically, the concept of virtue in Stoicism, arete in Greek philosophy, or dharma in Vedic tradition, all point to the same truth. A life worth living is one lived in alignment with one's highest potential. And this alignment is not achieved by chance. It is chosen daily in the standards you uphold. The great Stoic Epictetus wrote, "No man is free who is not master of himself." Mastery begins with deciding what you will no longer tolerate: laziness, excuses, dishonesty, self-betrayal, and replacing them with values worthy of the person you intend to become. Raising your standards starts with radical self-honesty. Look at your life without illusion. Where are you settling? Where are you cutting corners? Where are you accepting good enough when you know you're capable of excellence? This inventory may sting, but it is the birthplace of transformation. Growth requires the courage to confront your own complacency. From there, you must shift your identity from someone who tries to someone who demands. Demanding more does not mean perfectionism. It means refusing mediocrity. It's the difference between doing just enough to finish a task and doing it with mastery, between being present in a conversation and being fully engaged, between taking care of your body and treating it as a sacred vessel for your purpose. Every time you raise the bar, you expand your capacity for what's possible. Science offers a powerful lens here, the principle of progressive overload. In physiology, muscles only grow when they are challenged beyond their current limits. The same is true of character. If you demand only what's comfortable, you will never grow stronger. But when you consistently push just beyond your current capacity, waking up earlier, reading deeper, listening more attentively, executing with greater precision, you trigger adaptation. Excellence is not a leap, it's a compounding of small daily stretches. Raising standards also transforms self-respect. Every time you hold yourself accountable to a higher level, you reinforce a fundamental belief: I can trust myself. That trust becomes a source of unshakable confidence. You no longer need external validation because your self-image is built on evidence, the evidence of promises kept, of effort given, of discipline maintained. And from this foundation, your potential multiplies. There is also an energetic dimension to high standards. In metaphysical traditions, your vibration, the frequency of your thoughts, actions, and intentions, determines what you attract. When you operate from low standards, you emit a frequency of complacency and attract circumstances that match it. But when you demand more from yourself, your vibration rises, and life begins to meet you at that elevated frequency. You attract higher quality relationships, opportunities, and outcomes, not by chasing them, but by becoming the kind of person who naturally aligns with them. It's important to understand that stretching your standards is not about comparison. The only person you should strive to outdo is the person you were yesterday. This internal competition is the purest form of growth because it is immune to ego. Comparison breeds insecurity or arrogance. Self-surpassing breeds mastery. As the philosopher Seneca said, "No man becomes great by comparison with someone else, but by comparison with himself." Raising standards also reshapes the external world around you. People treat you according to the standards you set. If you tolerate disrespect, you will receive it. If you accept mediocrity in relationships, you will attract it. But when you hold yourself, and by extension others, to higher expectations, you begin to attract people and circumstances that resonate with that higher standard. This is not arrogance. It is alignment. One of the most powerful practices for elevating standards is the 1% principle. Each day, aim to be just 1% better in one area of your life. Read one more page. Speak one more truth. Push through one more repetition. Over a year, this compounding leads to exponential transformation. Tiny improvements multiplied by time create monumental change. Another essential element is courage. Raising standards means leaving behind the comfort of good enough. It means embracing discomfort, risking failure, and walking into uncertainty. There will be days when it feels easier to shrink back, but remember, growth never happens on the path of least resistance. As Nietzsche said, one must still have chaos in oneself to give birth to a dancing star. Courage is the willingness to hold yourself to a higher standard, even when no one else expects it. And perhaps most importantly, stretching your standards changes the story you tell about yourself. Identity is not fixed. It is a story written by the actions you repeat. If your standards are low, your story is one of limitation. I'm someone who never follows through. I'm someone who plays it safe. But when your standards are high, your story transforms. I am disciplined. I am committed. I am relentless. And you will act in alignment with that story. The ripple effect is profound. Higher standards not only elevate your life, they elevate the lives of those around you. Your example becomes a silent permission slip for others to rise. Your discipline becomes a mirror that reflects their own potential, and together you create a culture of excellence that transcends the individual. At the end of your life, you will not regret the risks you took or the effort you gave. You will regret the times you settled, the times you allowed fear, laziness, or self-doubt to dictate your standards. So raise them not someday, not when you feel ready, but now. Today. Because every day you hold yourself to a higher level, you step closer to the extraordinary version of yourself waiting to emerge. Do not aim to be better than others. Aim to be unrecognizable to who you were last year. Demand more. Expect more. Become more. And let those elevated standards carve a life worthy of your highest potential. Chapter 10. Prove limits wrong and create a life without ceilings. Every human being is born into a world of invisible cages. Some are built by society, the expectations of culture, tradition, and circumstance. Others are built by family, the labels and judgments we inherit without question. But the most powerful cages are the ones we build ourselves, the quiet beliefs that whisper, "This is as far as I can go. This is all I'm capable of. This is the ceiling of my potential." These are not physical barriers. They are stories written by fear, doubt, and the weight of past experiences. And because they are stories, they can be rewritten. The truth is, your limits are not real until you accept them. They are assumptions often formed in moments of vulnerability or failure that calcify into facts simply because they go unchallenged. Neuroscientists call this learned helplessness, a phenomenon where repeated setbacks train the brain to stop trying even when success is possible. But the opposite is also true. When you consistently challenge what you believe you cannot do, your brain rewires itself to expect growth. The limits dissolve, not all at once, but piece by piece, like ice, melting under steady heat. Spiritual traditions have echoed this truth for millennia. The Upanishads teach that you are what your deepest desire is. As your desire is, so is your will. As your will is, so is your deed. As your deed is, so is your destiny. In other words, the boundaries of your life are not drawn by circumstance, but by the size of your belief. Quantum physics suggests something similar. Observation shapes reality. The act of believing you can influences the field of possibility itself. It is not mystical exaggeration. It is the intersection of consciousness and creation. The first step in proving your limits wrong is awareness. Identify them. Name them. Write them down. Most people never do this. They live under ceilings they've never even seen clearly. When you name a limit, "I'm too old, I'm not smart enough, I don't have the resources," you strip it of its invisibility. Once seen, it can be challenged. Once challenged, it can be destroyed. Then comes the practice of micro-defiance, the daily act of doing slightly more than you believe you can. If you think you can run 2 miles, run 2.5. If you're afraid of public speaking, speak up once in a meeting. If you believe you're not a creative person, spend 10 minutes brainstorming ideas. These small acts of rebellion build evidence, and evidence is the death of limitation. Over time, the mind cannot argue with proof. It must rewrite the story. This is not just psychology, it's biology. Every time you step beyond a perceived limit, neurons form new pathways. These pathways become highways, and those highways become default routes. What was once impossible becomes automatic. This is how transformation occurs, not through sudden leaps, but through daily micro-expansions that compound into breakthroughs. However, you must also recognize that failure is an essential part of the process. Most people interpret failure as proof of their limits. In reality, it's proof that they're stretching beyond them. Failure is feedback. It is the body's signal to grow stronger, the mind's invitation to learn, the soul's challenge to evolve. To live without ceilings, you must make peace with failure. Embrace it as a teacher, not a verdict. As Thomas Edison famously said, after thousands of failed attempts to create the light bulb, "I have not failed. I've just found 10,000 ways that won't work." Equally important is the environment you cultivate. Surround yourself with those who challenge your assumptions, rather than reinforce them. Voices that say, "You can try again." Go further. These are the voices that lift the ceiling higher. On the other hand, voices that say, "Be realistic. Stay safe." That's too much. These are the architects of your cage. Choose carefully whom you allow to speak into your belief system. Vision, too, is a powerful weapon against limitation. The mind needs an image of what it is becoming. Create a vivid mental picture of your future self, the version of you who has shattered the limits you currently accept. See how they walk, how they speak, how they handle challenges. Neuroscience shows that the brain cannot easily distinguish between imagined and real experiences. When you repeatedly visualize a greater version of yourself, your subconscious begins aligning your actions with that image. The limit begins to crumble before it is even reached. Discipline is the fuel that sustains this journey. Talent might get you started, but discipline is what takes you beyond what seems possible. Discipline means showing up when motivation fades. It means acting when doubt is loudest. It means repeating the small, boring, necessary actions that gradually erode the ceiling overhead. Each repetition is a chisel against the walls of limitation. Physical energy also plays a critical role. A tired body convinces the mind that limits are real. But when you nourish yourself, move daily, and cultivate vitality, you discover that much of what you thought was impossible was simply energy deprivation, not incapacity. Your biology and your beliefs are intertwined. Elevate one, and the other follows. And finally, embrace infinite becoming, the understanding that growth has no finish line. There is no final version of you. Each time you break through a ceiling, a new horizon appears. This is not failure. It is the essence of being alive. Expansion is your natural state. The universe itself is still expanding billions of years after its birth. Why should your potential be any different? The moment you stop accepting limits as permanent, your life transforms. Fear loses its power. Doubt loses its grip. The words "I can't" are replaced with "I haven't yet," and every day becomes an experiment in possibility. Imagine waking up each morning knowing that no barrier is fixed, that the person you are today is only a fraction of who you could be tomorrow. Imagine looking back years from now and seeing a trail of shattered ceilings behind you. Imagine living a life defined not by what held you back, but by how relentlessly you pushed forward. That life is not reserved for the chosen few. It is available to you right now. But it requires a choice, the choice to defy every story that says enough, to challenge every voice that says stop, and to replace every "I can't" with "watch me." Refuse the ceiling. Break the story. Prove the limits wrong, not once, not sometimes, but every single day. Because in the end, there are no walls around your potential, only the ones you choose to leave standing. Chapter 11. Master the art of daily habits and become unstoppable. If there is one force more powerful than talent, more transformative than motivation, and more enduring than discipline, it is the quiet compounding power of daily habits. Habits are the invisible architecture of destiny. They shape the contours of your life not through dramatic bursts of effort, but through small, consistent actions, repeated over time. The truth is, you don't rise to the level of your goals, you fall to the level of your systems. And your systems are nothing more than the habits you live by. Most people overestimate the importance of intensity and underestimate the power of consistency. They chase motivation, like a drug fired up one day, burnt out the next. But motivation is a spark. Habits are the fire that keeps burning long after the spark fades. The Roman philosopher Seneca said luck is what happens when preparation meets opportunity. Habits are that preparation, the daily sharpening of the blade, so that when opportunity comes, you are ready to strike. Science confirms this. Neuroscientists studying habit formation have discovered that repeated behaviors carve neural pathways in the brain, turning effort into autopilot. Once a habit is formed, it requires minimal cognitive energy to sustain. This is why habits are so powerful. They remove willpower from the equation. You no longer decide whether to act, you simply do. This automation frees up mental bandwidth for higher-order thinking, creativity, and strategy. The process of building habits follows a universal pattern: cue, craving, response, reward. The cue is the trigger that initiates behavior. The craving is the desire that fuels it. The response is the action itself, and the reward is the satisfaction that reinforces it. By consciously designing this loop, you can replace destructive habits with constructive ones and engineer your environment to make success inevitable. For example, if you want to build a habit of writing each morning, place your notebook or laptop where you'll see it immediately upon waking cue. Visualize how good it will feel to have written something before breakfast craving. Commit to writing just one paragraph response. Then reward yourself with a small celebration, a cup of coffee, a walk, a moment of pride. Reward. Over time, the behavior becomes automatic. The key is to start small. Most people fail at habit change because they aim too high too fast. They attempt radical overhauls and collapse under the weight of their own expectations. But the human brain resists abrupt change. A habit that feels overwhelming is one your subconscious will reject. Instead, think of habits as seeds: a single push-up, a single page, a single minute of meditation. These are small enough to be easy, yet powerful enough to grow. Once the seed is planted, momentum takes over. Consistency is more important than intensity. 5 minutes of daily meditation will change you more profoundly than an hour once a month. 10 minutes of reading daily will make you wiser than a binge session once a year. The compounding effect of small habits is exponential. Just as water shapes stone through steady flow, habits sculpt your character, sharpen your skills, and elevate your results, not in days, but in months and years. From a spiritual perspective, habits are the practice of alignment. Each repeated action is a vote for the person you are becoming. Every time you act in accordance with your highest self, you strengthen that version of you. In Buddhism, this is called bhavana cultivation. Just as a gardener tends the soil day after day, shaping it into a fertile field, you cultivate your destiny through the daily repetition of thoughts, words, and deeds aligned with your purpose. But not all habits are visible. The most powerful ones often happen in the mind. The habit of gratitude trains your attention to notice abundance instead of lack. The habit of reframing challenges builds resilience instead of despair. The habit of intentional thinking rewires your internal dialogue from "I can't" to "I can." These mental habits create the foundation on which all external habits rest. Energy plays a critical role as well. Good habits compound. Bad habits compound too, but in the opposite direction. Negative routines drain energy, dull clarity, and weaken resolve. This is why it's not enough to build good habits. You must break the ones that hold you back. Identify your keystone habits. Those few behaviors that have a ripple effect on everything else. For example, consistent sleep might improve your focus, your mood, and your productivity. Daily exercise might elevate your energy, discipline, and confidence. Replacing even one negative keystone habit with a positive one can transform your entire trajectory. There's also a deeper cosmic principle at play. The universe rewards rhythm. All of nature operates on cycles: the rising sun, the turning tides, the beating heart. Habits align you with this natural law of rhythm, creating a state of flow where effort feels less like force and more like momentum. When your daily actions align with the rhythm of your highest intentions, life itself seems to conspire in your favor. Opportunities arise, synchronicities appear. What once felt like struggle begins to feel like inevitability. Yet mastering habits requires patience. Just as a river carves a canyon, not by force, but by time, habits reshape your life gradually. In the early days, progress may feel invisible, but beneath the surface, neural pathways are strengthening, identity is shifting, momentum is building. Then one day the results explode into view, not because of one massive effort, but because of hundreds of small ones stacked together. And perhaps the most profound shift is this: habits change who you believe yourself to be. A person who meditates daily begins to see themselves as mindful. A person who exercises daily begins to see themselves as strong. A person who writes daily begins to see themselves as a creator. This shift in identity is the ultimate goal. Once a habit becomes part of who you are, the behavior sustains itself. Your future is not built in grand gestures or dramatic leaps. It is built quietly in the small choices you make each day. Choices that repeated consistently become habits, and habits that compounded over time become destiny. So stop waiting for motivation. Stop waiting for perfect conditions. Choose one habit today, something so small it's impossible to fail, and begin. Water it daily. Nurture it patiently. Watch as it grows roots into your identity and branches into every corner of your life. Because when you master the art of daily habits, you become unstoppable, not by chance, but by choice. Chapter 12. Cultivate unwavering self-belief and become your own source of power. Every transformation, every breakthrough, every empire, every miracle begins with a single seed: belief. Not belief in luck, not belief in circumstance, but belief in oneself. Without it, talent is wasted, opportunity is ignored, and potential remains dormant. With it, even the impossible begins to bend. The paradox of human greatness is this: you must believe before there is evidence. You must see before you arrive. You must trust the strength within you, even when the world offers none. Self-belief is not arrogance. It is not blind optimism. It is a deep, unwavering knowing, a conviction that you are capable of growth, deserving of success, and worthy of the life you envision. It is the anchor that holds you steady when storms rage, and the fuel that keeps you moving when logic says, stop. And yet for most people, this inner belief is the very thing they struggle with the most. They speak to themselves with doubt. They replay their failures as proof of limitation. They allow other people's opinions to shape their identity. The truth is, you were born with inherent worth. No mistake can erase it. No opinion can diminish it. No failure can revoke it. But life has a way of burying that truth beneath layers of conditioning, criticism from childhood societal expectations, repeated disappointments. Each layer whispers, you're not enough. Self-belief is the act of peeling those layers away, one by one, until you return to the truth of who you are. Psychology confirms what ancient wisdom has always known. The beliefs you hold about yourself shape every decision you make. This is called the self-fulfilling prophecy. If you believe you're destined to fail, you will act hesitantly, sabotage opportunities, and interpret setbacks as proof. If you believe you're capable of success, you will act boldly, persist through obstacles, and interpret setbacks as lessons. In both cases, you create the reality you expect. Your belief is the architect of your destiny. One of the most powerful ways to build self-belief is through evidence stacking. The mind craves proof, and you can give it proof by collecting small wins. Every promise you keep to yourself, no matter how small, is a vote of confidence in your own reliability. Every challenge you overcome, every skill you master, every fear you face, becomes evidence that you are capable. Over time, this evidence forms a foundation of unshakable belief. Language is another cornerstone of self-belief. The words you speak to yourself become the script your subconscious follows. When you repeat, "I'm not ready," your mind believes it and acts accordingly. When you declare, "I am becoming stronger," your mind searches for ways to make it true. Replace self-limiting language with empowering affirmations. Speak to yourself, not as you are, but as you intend to become. Over time, the voice in your head, once your harshest critic, becomes your most loyal ally. Your environment also plays a profound role. Self-belief thrives in soil, enriched by support and encouragement. Surround yourself with people who see your potential, who challenge you to grow, who reflect back to you the greatness you sometimes forget. Distance yourself from those who project their limitations onto you. Remember, their disbelief says nothing about your potential and everything about their perspective. From a spiritual perspective, self-belief is more than psychology. It is an act of alignment with the deeper intelligence of the universe. The same energy that spins galaxies and grows forests flows through you. To doubt yourself is to doubt that intelligence. To believe in yourself is to trust that the universe did not make a mistake in creating you. This is why many spiritual traditions teach the principle of divine potential, the idea that you are not a random accident, but an expression of infinite possibility. Visualization is another powerful tool. By vividly imagining yourself succeeding, hearing the applause, feeling the pride, seeing the outcome, you activate the same neural circuits that would fire if it were actually happening. The subconscious mind cannot easily distinguish between imagined and real experiences. Rehearse your future until it feels inevitable. The more you see it, the more you begin to be it. Yet self-belief is not built by thoughts alone, it is forged in action. Confidence is not the prerequisite for action, it is the result of it. Every time you act despite doubt, you prove to yourself that fear does not define you. Every time you show up when you want to quit, you send a message to your subconscious: I can trust myself. The more often you act, the stronger that trust becomes, and soon belief is no longer a choice. It is a reflex. It is also vital to separate self-worth from results. Too often people tie their value to achievements. I'll believe in myself when I succeed. But this reverses the order. Success does not create self-belief. Self-belief creates success. You are worthy before the victory. You are enough before the proof. And ironically, it is precisely this unconditional belief that makes the victory inevitable. Even science now points to the measurable effects of self-belief. Research on the placebo effect shows that belief can trigger real physiological changes, healing wounds, reducing pain, even altering brain chemistry. If belief can change the body, imagine what it can do to your destiny. This is not magic. It is the raw power of consciousness shaping reality. Building self-belief is not a one-time event. It is a daily discipline. Each day, choose to speak to yourself with kindness instead of criticism. Each day, act with courage instead of hesitation. Each day, remind yourself that you are capable, deserving, and unstoppable. These daily decisions, small and simple, are how belief becomes identity. And when belief becomes identity, everything changes. Goals that once felt unreachable become stepping stones. Challenges that once seemed overwhelming become invitations. The word impossible disappears from your vocabulary because you no longer measure yourself by what you were, but by what you are becoming. Imagine a life where you are your own source of strength, where doubt has no hold, where external opinions cannot shake you, where failure does not define you. That life begins not with external change, but with a single internal decision to believe. Believe not because the world says you can, but because you choose to. Believe not because you have proof, but because you will create it. Believe not because it's easy, but because it's who you are. And when you do, you'll discover a truth that every great achiever has known: the most powerful force in the universe is a human being who truly believes in themselves. Chapter 13. Embrace change as your greatest ally and evolve without fear. If there is one constant that shapes every life, it is change. It is the silent current beneath all existence, unstoppable, inevitable, and indifferent to our resistance. Seasons shift, markets crash, relationships evolve, bodies age, technologies disrupt. Yet while change is the most natural force in the universe, it is also the one most people fight against with all their strength. They cling to the familiar, resist the unknown, and mourn the passing of what was, not realizing that resistance to change is resistance to life itself. To evolve is the very purpose of existence. Nature does not cling to last season's flowers. Rivers do not resist new paths. Even the stars themselves are born, burn and die in endless cycles of transformation. You too are meant to evolve, not once, not occasionally, but continuously. Every version of you is a stepping stone to the next, and each time you resist change, you interrupt the very process that's trying to deliver you to your higher self. The fear of change is deeply human. It is hardwired into our biology. The brain's primary directive is safety, and safety is often found in the familiar. The unknown, by contrast, feels like danger. But here's the paradox. The familiar may be comfortable, but it is rarely liberating. Growth, by definition, requires movement beyond what is known. The life you dream of, the freedom, success, love, peace you crave, exists beyond your current version of self. And the only bridge to that life is change. Philosophers and mystics throughout history have taught this truth. Heraclitus famously declared, "No man ever steps in the same river twice, for it is not the same river, and he is not the same man." Buddhist wisdom teaches anicca impermanence, the idea that clinging is the root of suffering, because everything is in flux. Even Stoic philosophy reminds us that nothing endures but change. The wise do not resist it. They ride it, partner with it, and ultimately master it. The first step to embracing change is shifting your perspective. Most people view change as something that happens to them, but in reality, it happens for them. Every disruption is an invitation to adapt, every ending a gateway to a new beginning. Life is not trying to break you, it's trying to grow you. When one door closes, it's often because the room you're meant to enter next is far larger than the one you're leaving behind. The second step is to build psychological flexibility, the ability to stay grounded even when everything around you shifts. This is a skill, not a trait. You develop it by leaning into small changes regularly. Take new routes, learn new skills, say yes to opportunities that scare you. These micro-adaptations train your nervous system to associate change with curiosity instead of fear. And over time, change stops feeling like a threat and starts feeling like a challenge, even a thrill. From a scientific standpoint, neuroplasticity The brain's ability to rewire itself thrives on novelty. Each time you step into the unfamiliar, your brain builds new neural connections, increasing creativity, resilience, and intelligence. In other words, change doesn't just transform your circumstances, it evolves your mind. Another powerful reframe: understand that endings are not failures. Too often people interpret the end of a job, a relationship, or a chapter as a sign that something went wrong. But endings are natural. They are the necessary pruning that makes new growth possible. Just as a tree sheds old leaves to grow stronger ones, you must sometimes release what no longer serves you to make space for what will. This principle applies to identity as well. Who you were 5 years ago was perfect for the challenges of that chapter, but that version of you may not be capable of meeting the demands of your future. Evolving means outgrowing old beliefs, outdated self-images, and limiting narratives. It means being willing to say, "That was me then, but I am becoming someone more." This is not betrayal, it's evolution. On a spiritual level, change is the universe's greatest teacher. It humbles the ego, reminding us that control is an illusion. It deepens wisdom, teaching us surrender, adaptability, and trust. It reveals that the ground beneath us was never meant to stay still, because we were never meant to stay still. When you stop resisting, you discover that change is not chaos. It is choreography, guiding you toward the life you are meant to live. A practical tool for embracing change is the 90-day evolution practice. Every 90 days, ask yourself, what is one identity, belief, or habit I need to release to step into the next version of me? And what is one new skill, perspective, or behavior I will adopt? This intentional shedding and renewal keeps you in a state of active evolution, never stuck, always expanding. It's also essential to develop trust, not blind trust in external circumstances, but deep trust in your own ability to adapt. You may not know what the next chapter holds, but you do know that you will find a way to thrive within it. This self-trust is the antidote to fear. It turns uncertainty from an enemy into an adventure. And remember, this change rarely arrives wrapped in comfort. It often comes disguised as loss, disruption, or uncertainty. But beneath that disguise lies transformation. The career setback that forces you to reinvent yourself. The heartbreak that teaches you deeper love. The move to a new city that unlocks a version of you that could never have existed otherwise. What feels like destruction is often construction, life clearing the ground so it can build something greater. The most fulfilled, powerful people are not those who avoid change. They are those who initiate it. They reinvent themselves before they are forced to. They step into the unknown before certainty appears. They understand that comfort zones, no matter how pleasant, are cages, and they would rather live at the edge of expansion than at the center of safety. So let change be your ally, not your adversary. Dance with it, invite it, even create it, because the person you are meant to become is waiting on the other side of the transformation you're resisting. And once you stop clinging to what was, your hands will be free to build what can be. Embrace change, not as something to fear, but as proof that you are alive, growing, and evolving. Because the day your life stops changing is the day it stops expanding. And you were never meant to shrink, you were meant to become. Chapter 14. Build unbreakable discipline and turn action into your identity. Motivation is fleeting. Inspiration is seasonal. But discipline is eternal. It is the bridge between intention and reality, between desire and achievement, between who you are and who you are meant to become. Without it, even the most powerful dreams remain fantasies. With it, even the most improbable visions become inevitable. The reason most people never fulfill their potential is not because they lack talent, intelligence, or opportunity. It's because they lack discipline. They rely on feelings to guide their actions. If they feel inspired, they work. If they feel tired, they rest. If they feel afraid, they retreat. But feelings are fickle. They rise and fall with weather, mood, and circumstance. Discipline, on the other hand, is unmoved. It shows up regardless of emotion. It acts without permission. It does not negotiate with comfort or convenience. At its core, discipline is self-respect in action. It is the recognition that your future deserves more loyalty than your present comfort. It is the daily decision to choose long-term gain over short-term relief. Every time you keep a promise to yourself, even a small one, you strengthen that self-respect. Every time you break one, you erode it. Over time, discipline becomes less about effort and more about identity. You no longer try to be disciplined, you simply are. Neuroscience offers a fascinating insight here. Discipline is not a fixed trait, it is a trainable skill. Each act of self-control strengthens the prefrontal cortex, the part of the brain responsible for decision-making and impulse regulation. This means every time you resist a distraction, wake up early, or follow through on a difficult task, you're literally rewiring your brain for greater willpower. Like a muscle, discipline grows stronger the more you use it. The key to cultivating discipline is to start small and build consistency. Many people fail because they attempt radical overhauls, waking up 3 hours earlier, going from 0 workouts to 7 per week, quitting every bad habit overnight. Their willpower buckles under the weight of drastic change. Instead, focus on one non-negotiable daily action, something so small you cannot fail: 5 minutes of reading, 10 minutes of exercise, 1 cold shower. Once this becomes automatic, add another. Over time, these small acts compound into unstoppable momentum. One of the most powerful practices for building discipline is creating systems rather than relying on motivation. Systems are structures that make the desired behavior easier to execute and the undesired behavior harder. Want to eat healthier? Don't stock junk food. Want to write daily block distracting websites? Want to wake up early? Place your alarm across the room. By designing your environment for success, you remove the need for constant decision-making, and discipline becomes the default. Another crucial element is ritual. Ritual turns discipline into something sacred. When you repeat an action at the same time in the same place, with the same intention, it signals to your subconscious that this action matters. Over time, the ritual itself becomes a trigger for performance. Athletes call this the activation switch. Writers, monks, soldiers all rely on ritual to enter states of deep focus and relentless follow-through. Equally important is the ability to delay gratification. In a world addicted to instant rewards, discipline is the rare skill of choosing what you want most over what you want now. This is the principle behind the famous marshmallow test, where children who resisted immediate temptation achieved greater success decades later. Delaying gratification rewires the brain to value the future, and your future is built on the choices you make when no one is watching. From a spiritual perspective, discipline is a form of devotion, not to a deity, but to your highest self. It is a daily prayer, written in action. It is saying, I believe in my potential so deeply that I will honor it with my effort. This is why ancient traditions revered discipline not as punishment, but as liberation. The Stoics called it mastery over the self. The Bhagavad Gita calls it tapas, the inner fire of focused effort that burns away weakness and ignorance. But discipline does not mean rigidity. It's not about punishing yourself for failure or chasing perfection. It's about returning again and again to what matters most. You will slip. You will miss days. You will fall short. The difference between those who succeed and those who don't is not that the successful never fall. It's that they never stop getting back up. Every time you recommit, you strengthen your resolve. Every time you return, you deepen your discipline. And discipline is contagious. The more you build it in one area of life, the more it spreads to others. The consistency you develop in the gym strengthens your focus at work. The commitment you show in your craft enhances your relationships. Like a rising tide, discipline lifts every part of your existence. There's also a psychological shift that happens as discipline becomes identity. At first, discipline feels like sacrifice, trading comfort for effort, ease for challenge. But eventually, it becomes freedom. Freedom from procrastination. Freedom from regret. Freedom from the tyranny of fleeting emotions. You stop negotiating with yourself and start trusting yourself. The question is no longer, will I do it? It's simply, what's next? In the end, discipline is not about working harder. It's about becoming unstoppable. It is the invisible force that turns vision into reality, habits into character, and actions into legacy. It is the reason some people live their dreams, while others only talk about them. So, make discipline your daily practice. Build it with small promises. Fortify it with systems. Protect it with rituals. And honor it as the sacred bridge between who you are and who you could be. Because once discipline becomes who you are, nothing, no setback, no fear, no distraction can stop you. Chapter 15. Align your life with purpose and live with unstoppable clarity. There is a power that outshines. Talent surpasses intelligence and outlasts motivation. A power that turns ordinary effort into extraordinary impact. That power is purpose. Purpose is the gravitational force that pulls you forward when everything else tries to hold you back. It is the compass that guides your decisions when the path ahead is unclear. It is the reason behind the discipline, the fuel beneath the persistence, and the meaning that gives suffering its nobility. Without purpose, even success feels empty. With it, even struggle feels sacred. Every great life is built upon a why. Yet most people never discover theirs. They chase goals society handed them: wealth, status, comfort, only to find themselves restless and unfulfilled. That's because goals are destinations, but purpose is direction. Goals can be achieved and forgotten. Purpose is infinite. It is not something you check off a list. It's something you become. So, what is purpose? It is not a job title, a project, or a possession. Purpose is the intersection of three things: what you love, what you're good at, and what the world needs. Where those three meet, your calling lives. Sometimes purpose is loud and obvious, a cause, a mission, a movement. Other times, it's subtle, a quiet dedication to creating beauty, solving problems, or elevating those around you. Either way, it is the deeper reason behind everything you do. The process of discovering purpose begins with self-inquiry. Ask yourself, what activities make me forget time? What topics make my soul come alive? What pain in the world do I feel called to heal? What strengths come effortlessly to me? And how could they serve others? The answers may not arrive immediately. Purpose often reveals itself gradually, like a sunrise. But the act of asking and continuing to ask is itself a declaration to life. I am ready to live for something greater than myself. Purpose is not found. It's forged, shaped by experiences, refined by challenges, and clarified through action. Many people wait for purpose to appear before they act. But the opposite is true. It is through action that purpose reveals itself. Each step forward, even if uncertain, brings more clarity than endless contemplation. Start by serving where you are contributing, where you can, and following what sparks curiosity. The path will unfold as you walk it. From a neurological perspective, living with purpose activates the brain's reward circuitry, releasing dopamine and endorphins that enhance motivation and resilience. It also lowers stress responses, increases longevity, and improves overall well-being. This is why people who live with a strong sense of purpose are not only more successful, they are also happier, healthier, and more fulfilled. On a deeper level, purpose is a spiritual alignment, a resonance between your individual will and the will of the universe. In many traditions, this is called Dharma Ikigai, or telos, the reason for which you were created. When your actions align with this deeper order, life begins to feel less like struggle and more like flow. Synchronicities increase, doors open unexpectedly, effort feels meaningful rather than exhausting. It's as if the universe itself conspires to support those who are on their path. Purpose also transforms your relationship with adversity. Without it, obstacles feel pointless, and suffering feels unbearable. With it, every hardship becomes part of a larger narrative. The pain of discipline becomes the pride of legacy. The weight of responsibility becomes the privilege of impact. You no longer ask, "Why is this happening to me?" You ask, "How is this shaping me for what I'm meant to do?" But purpose demands courage. It often calls you away from comfort and toward challenge. It may require leaving behind familiar paths, disappointing others, or risking failure. This is why many never pursue it, because purpose is not the easy road. It is the necessary road, and those who walk it discover a strength they never knew they had. A powerful practice for deepening purpose is the legacy lens. Imagine yourself at the end of your life, looking back. What do you want to have stood for? What impact do you want to have made? What stories do you want people to tell about you? The answers will guide you toward the work that matters most. Purpose also demands focus. In a world full of distractions, it's easy to scatter your energy across 1,000 meaningless pursuits. But when you are anchored in purpose, you become selective. You learn to say no to anything that doesn't align with your mission, not out of fear, but out of clarity. Every decision, every habit, every moment becomes an expression of your deeper why. And perhaps the greatest secret is this: purpose is not about you. It's about service. It's about using your life to lift something beyond yourself. A person, a community, a cause, an idea. This shift from self-centered ambition to purpose-driven contribution transforms success from something you achieve into something you give. And that is where fulfillment lives. Imagine waking up each morning with a fire that no setback can extinguish. Imagine pursuing goals not just for reward, but for meaning. Imagine building a life that outlives you, a legacy woven into the fabric of the world. That is the power of purpose. So don't ask, "What do I want from life?" Ask, "What does life want from me?" Because when you align your actions with the answer, you stop chasing happiness, and happiness starts following you. Live with purpose. Let it guide your choices, fuel your discipline, and anchor your soul. Because once you do, you no longer walk through life wondering if you're on the right path. You become the path itself. Conclusion. The path of relentless evolution. If you've made it here, you already know the truth. Greatness is not reserved for the chosen few. It is not written into destiny handed down by luck, or locked behind doors you cannot open. Greatness is built brick by brick, choice by choice, day by day. Across these 15 chapters, we have journeyed through the core principles that shape an unstoppable life, from mastering your mind and emotions, to forging discipline and resilience, to stretching your standards, breaking self-imposed limits, and aligning your actions with purpose. Each lesson is powerful on its own, but together, they form something far greater, a blueprint for becoming limitless. The road ahead will not be easy. You will stumble. You will doubt. You will face days when your old self tries to drag you back into comfort, excuses, and fear. But remember, transformation is not about never falling. It's about never staying down. Every setback is a test. Every challenge is a teacher. And every time you rise, you reinforce the truth that you are stronger than the obstacle before you. Most people spend their lives waiting for the perfect time, the right opportunity, the right feeling. But the truth is, now is the only time you will ever have. Not tomorrow, not someday. Today. Right here, right now, you hold the power to change everything, not by wishing, but by choosing. Choose to show up when no one is watching. Choose to act even when doubt screams louder than belief. Choose to grow when comfort tempts you to stand still. Choose to keep becoming every single day. And one day sooner than you think, you'll look back and realize that you are no longer the person who started this journey. You will see someone stronger, wiser, calmer, and more capable than you ever believed possible. Someone who no longer chases potential because they're living it. This is the true reward of relentless evolution, not just achieving goals, but becoming the kind of person who is unstoppable. Not because life is easy, but because nothing, not fear, not failure, not circumstance can break the fire that burns within you. The final truth is this: the world doesn't need another dreamer. It needs a doer. It needs someone willing to turn wisdom into action, belief into movement, and possibility into reality. Let that person be you. The path is yours. The tools are in your hands. Now step forward and build the life that once felt impossible.